Welcome to Normalize the Conversation. I'm your host, Francesca Regeter, and today I'm joined by author and breath coach, Ed Harrold. In this episode, Ed reveals the power of breathwork in managing anxiety and becoming more present in your life. He shares how breathing techniques can transform both your physiological and mental state, helping you build a deeper connection with yourself, one breath at a time. Ed, thank you so much for joining me today. I am very excited for our conversation, but before we begin, I just want to check in. How are you really?
I had a beautiful day. I just really had a few opportunities to really check in with myself and, am I being patient with myself? Am I being kind? Am I allowing space for others? Healthy boundaries, and above all, taking the day one breath at a time.
Oh, that's so important. That one breath at a time. And that's something that I've really been trying to learn lately. I get so caught in my head all the time. And I'm so focused on the next moment and what comes a week from now, a month from now, 5 years from now, that I rarely live in the present. And learning to take that breath and just focus on the next breath helps so much.
Yeah, life takes place one breath at a time. There's nobody on earth who's taking two breaths. So this is designed to help us evolve and make better choices for ourselves.
Absolutely. Learning that we actually have a lot more control over our mind, over our thoughts, over our bodies really just makes all the difference. I was writing a blog about this yesterday because I noticed how easy it is to get caught in that spiral of these negative thoughts, and then my heart start racing and I can't catch my breath, and then I just don't function to my fullest ability because I'm starting to feel these debilitating symptoms. And when I'm learning to breathe through that, I can actually calm that heart rate. I can calm those thoughts. I have more control than I realize.
That's a great awareness. We have a lot more control over how we're showing up in our life than our ego lets on.
Yeah.
And I think just for folks getting back to some basics, number one, breathing through your nose, not your mouth. Number two, taking life one breath at a time, not allowing the ego to take you into places of things that have happened or things that might have happened. Stay here. There's two types of thoughts that you're attracted to and thoughts that you're resisting. There's three types of emotion: pain, pleasure, or I don't know yet. So if we can just break things down into smaller bite-sized pieces, it simplifies things that sometimes get really complex and we lose control of the steering wheel. We're like, oh my God, So just simplify, simplify, simplify. Doesn't mean you're dumb. It actually means that you have a lot of self-awareness.
Yes. Oh, simplify. I feel that we're very caught up in all these complex things and we think everything has to be so difficult. If I want to get through that anxious moment, it has to be these big steps. If I want to do some self-care practice, it has to be these big steps. But when we start simplifying things, and it just makes it less scary, and it actually helps us take that step forward.
Yeah, it's another one of the ego's great tricks is, everything has to be big steps. I got news for you. Everybody's taking baby steps. I don't care if you're the most successful or someone who's struggling right now. Everyone learns in baby steps. There are no shortcuts. This is a journey that we are all on. It's a huge adventure. And if life is a race, it's a race you want to come in last. You want to really enjoy the ride.
Yes, that's so true. And it's so hard a lot of times for me because I go online on social media and I see how far it looks like people are going all the time and all these big moves. And then when my life feels like those baby steps all the time, I constantly feel like I'm caught behind. I have to learn to get out of my head, get out of that comparison game and focus on who I am, because that's where the journey takes place. That's where joy happens. That's where love and self-love all come from. Being me, not trying to be someone else.
You have to be me. Everybody else is taken. So you have to kind of find a way to tone down the parts of that dark passenger which are causing us pain. And we have to look at the challenges that we're going through as a teaching tool, as an evolutionary step of getting us from point A to point B. And just honoring, your body is smart. Okay. Your body just isn't something to carry your head around. Okay. Come to your feet. Feel your feet on this planet. That's not woo woo. It's called grounding. Okay. Your body is an electromagnetic field. Mother Earth below you is an electromagnetic field. This is scientifically proven. Now, what's below you is in balance. Nature is in balance. It's been around a long, long time. Spring is coming here in the northern hemisphere. It hasn't missed one in a billion years. But what happens is we lose our vibration. We come out of balance, and we can get ourselves back in balance. And it's a habit. It's a skill that we all can learn. But just putting your feet on the ground and letting the soles of your feet feel the vibration of this planet, you become more centered. In other words, you're not in yesterday, you're not in tomorrow, you're right now. And when you're centered, there's something called grounded. And when you're grounded, the pace of your thoughts are being felt by your body. And any thought that doesn't want to be felt, that's something that requires healing.
Yeah, grounding is so important. And I wish that was something we were taught earlier in life.
Yeah.
Right? Why are we not taught these skills? It is so essential. We are in our heads all the time. We're constantly talking to ourselves. That's part of the human experience. But we have to learn how to ground ourselves in that present moment so we can kind of catch those thoughts. We can see what's happening and we can learn to heal. We can take that first step. But if we don't know what's happening because we're so caught up in our heads, it feels almost impossible.
It's very difficult to fix the mind with the mind. Some people can do it. Usually it takes more time to get yourself back to balance if you're just bouncing thoughts off in your head all the time because you don't know which one's true. You don't know which voice in your head you can really trust. All of us lose our way from time to time, but that's why, God gave us a body because it's got these feet on it that are connected to this planet. You have a spine. And as soon as you straighten your spine, ladies and gentlemen, notice the dark passenger has less command over the television set in your head. So feet on the ground. When your posture is erect, notice you're above the narrative, looking down, choosing which thought you want to bring to light. You're not looking up going, oh, this is too much for me.
That is so true. Oh, being able to,
Go to the body.
yes, going into the body. Oh, that's something that I've slowly been learning, trying to get out of my head and go for walks. And I love to go for a walk on the beach and take my shoes off and feel that ocean on my feet, the sand, and actually be present in that feeling in the moment instead of, like you said, so focused on looking up to these thoughts or looking down, just actually being there and feeling what it's like to live at that moment.
It's so great when you can go out on the beach or you have the ability to get out in the nature and you look around and there are no words to describe it because it's so big. And our ego is so small compared to what we're picking up on the beach and what we're picking up in the mountains or wherever you may be on the planet. So again, the feet on the ground, the spine straight, and then you're taking control of your inhale. In other words, you're slowing your inhale down so that you're slowing down the brainwave activity and the air is coming down into your solar plexus where there's a lot of these neurochemicals and hormones called dopamine. So I feel good about myself, and serotonin. I'm relaxed. And who doesn't want to feel good and relaxed? So if you can just slow that inhale down towards your feet in the upper abdomen, there's a minor nervous system here. And that serotonin and dopamine will come up through your enteric nervous system. So the diaphragm moves down, it massages this hormone in your body and it begins to move through your bloodstream. And then you begin to release tension around your shoulders. The backpack that you're carrying around for your past just doesn't have the same pull on your mind. Your heart starts to come forward a little bit and say, shh, listen, I got you.
This just made, when I got out of the psychiatric unit when I was 20, I did neurofeedback therapy, and one thing they did was put a breathing belt on me, and I had to practice my breath and getting into control of it. And now it makes sense why. Before I was like, oh, they're teaching me a skill to kind of center in the moment, but now I understand it. Wow.
Yeah, so everybody's different, but we're all kind of the same. But one of the main goals that I'm trying to bring forth is that if you can control your physiology, in other words, your posture, okay, how many breaths you're taking per minute, so you're breathing slower, you can bring your heart rate down, so there's less fight or flight negativity in the brain. You can bring your blood pressure down. If you can start to control your body, or sometimes called your physiology, you will have a much greater command over your psychology and your personal narratives that you're using and the pictures that you're watching in the ticker tape of your brain.
Yes, absolutely. When you're not caught up in that fight or flight, when your body is not trying to figure out if it's safe in that moment, and you know that you're safe, you know that there's not a lion chasing you, you are able to understand, again, just catch those thoughts, understand where they're coming from, and being able to, whether it's rewrite them or shift them to a little bit more encouragement and kindness and
Yes.
self-compassion.
So
If
well said.
if you know, then you can make those steps. But if you don't know, it's so hard to know, like you said, can't heal your mind with your mind.
Right. Right. The feedback loop in the brain is just insensitive. It's like a dog chasing his tail. Nothing ever, it's a great story, but nothing ever changes. So again, it's feet on the ground, spine straight, shoulders away from the ears, and you begin to breathe slowly through your nose into the upper solar plexus and into the lower lobes of your lungs, which triggers this parasympathetic, this rest and digest, this serotonin and dopamine, and you begin to feel good about yourself. And when you begin to feel good about yourself in an authentic way, you have a much greater command over where your attention's going to go in your choosing mind in regard to how you're showing up in the present moment. What has value for you? 99% of the time, unless you're in mortal danger of injury, everything is okay. Everything is okay until you say it's not. And then when it's not okay, let's take a little deeper breath here. Let's explore this in my mind as the observer, not the judge, or the witness rather than the competitor that I'm competing against because I've never been good enough. All of that narrative is all just theater. Folks have to understand, without getting too far into the weeds, that 90% of the thoughts you have aren't even your thoughts.
Yeah.
Okay. These are thoughts that have come to you in your formative years before your ego or ego was developed between the ages of 0 and 6. So a lot of our subconscious drives and perceptions and projections come from mother, father, brother, sister, teacher, pastor. We weren't even fully developed yet. We didn't even know our name, but we took it all in our environment as if it was the truth. And it might have been the truth, but that's their truth. It's not your truth, and it must be evolved. So don't take everything so personal, okay? Because it's not even you.
That is so true. Those narratives that were thrown onto us before we had a chance to
Didn't
understand
even know,
our sense of self.
right? And how many times did these positions of authority, take advantage? Maybe they were unconscious too and had unhealed trauma from their family, and it just generationally goes on. So if you can just begin to understand how this brain works and how it works in regard to trying to protect you, and sometimes how paranoid it is and nothing ever changes. And then there's this other side where you got all these great ideas, but nothing ever gets done. It's because you got to get into your feet, open your spine, relax your eyes and jaw and shoulder, and slow your breath down and feel life coming in and out through your nose. And you're going to immediately feel something deeper inside you microscopically. And there isn't one person who I've met in my life that said, oh my God, I went deeper, Ed, and I didn't like it.
Yeah, it's going deeper. You discover who you are. And when you don't
Exactly.
know who you are, eventually you get to, at least for me, eventually I got to a point in life where it was time to know what I wanted to do. It was time to
Right.
know what I wanted to be. I went away to college and suddenly I had to figure it all out. People kept asking me, what are you going to do for the rest of your life? And I had no idea who I was. And that landed me in a psych unit. So it's
Mm-hmm.
so important that we start looking in and stepping away from that narrative that was thrown onto us and discover who we are and who we want to be because we write our stories. No one else does.
Yeah. Yeah. There comes a time where we begin to question our reality. I think we all do it.
Yeah.
And I think it's healthy. Like, what am I doing? Where am I? What is my purpose? These aren't points of weakness. These are points of huge exponential growth. If we can just harness the energy of that and then begin to kind of clear the debris field, in your own way. Look, everybody should be pulling the weeds out of their past because we all have made missteps. And the only worst misstep would be not looking at those and using those as a step ladder to get up higher in your mind so you can look down on your awareness and let it evolve on its own beautiful, organic, natural way.
Yes. Oh, this is so reassuring because it is normal to question who you are and where you're going and what you're doing. That's part of the human experience. And a lot of times it feels so isolating because people aren't talking about that.
Mm.
They're online showing how great their life is and what they're doing. And then a lot of times we just feel so I'm the only one going through this. And we're not. We really aren't.
Dude, it's such a slippery slope. It's so easy to get down on ourselves. It's so easy the ego has the ability to separate us from us. And we don't know it when it happens because it's kind of mischievous how the mind does it because we don't pay attention all the time. Our mind goes off in these great adventures. It's great having one. It's like a roommate. But at the end of the day, how much presence are we bringing to the present moment? And it's really hard. I mean, no one would learn anything new without questions because you would look at life through the same answers you gave as you were 8 years old. So face it, if you want to grow, you're going to have to ask questions. Where? Well, around your old answers. It's very simple, but it's not easy. Like everybody wants to do better, but nobody wants to change. That's how powerful the subconscious brain is. I mean, the subconscious brain gets, a lot of bad print, but at the end of the day, it does a lot of great things because you don't want to figure out how to open and close the door. You don't want to figure out how to open a window. You don't want to figure out how to walk across the street. The subconscious has already figured this out for you. You know how to drive a car. But there are pieces of the subconscious that separate us from our heart. And the idea is to notice earlier on in the process, I've left my heart. There's this strange, mad idea that I'm separate from myself. I'm separate from God. I'm separate from the light. I'm a bad person. It's crazy. It's not normal, but it's a great way to come forward because there's so much attention there.
True. It's so hard to embrace that things change and you change because it's
Right.
scary. But that's where so much of my growth and learning, finding things I enjoy in life, finding that pleasure all came from those moments where I embraced the change. I was very resistant in the beginning, still not big on change, but learning to accept it really does help. And knowing that in the present moment, you don't have to know. And that's where my anxiety comes from, is trying to know what's going to happen next and control the outcome. And unfortunately, when I try to control the outcome, it almost never goes the way I plan.
Yeah, it's a funny thing. There's only so much probability about the future. I get up in the morning, open my eyes, I've got this schedule. It's wonderful, but what's going to happen? I don't know. Like, so pay attention. Like things happen. There's only so much that we can control. And one thing that you never give control of up is your perception. You want to perceive as correctly as possible what you believe is occurring moment by moment, day by day in your life. And this refined attention gives you the ability to harness the energy of the body, tap into the wisdom of your heart, find a mental intention, breathe with it, and see if you can bring it to life.
So amazing. I'm learning so much. It's so easy to get caught in this idea that I'm the problem. Things aren't going to get better. I'm trying to do something and I have this plan and it doesn't work out and the world is against me, and being able to find ways to exist in the moment because you can learn from what's happening. You can learn from the changes that the things you aren't expecting. You can actually learn and adapt and not feel so overwhelmed by it, but you can see it as an opportunity.
Yeah, you're getting so much better at being yourself.
Yeah.
You're remembering through experience who you really are. And you do have value. And you are accountable. And you are sensitive. And you are responsible. And you want to make the world as beautiful as you can make the world inside your body. And this is a great responsibility that we all carry around. Like life on earth is a participation sport. Like there's only so much you can withdraw from all the noise and action. Like you have to get into the game. And your participation level is totally up to you. Whether you want to do a little bit, that's fine. You want to be all in with a bunch of other people, that's great too. It's all good for the brain because it creates new neural connections, like doing things that come to you as being uncomfortable. But when you think about it, like, why can't I do that? Everybody else is doing it. So it's just like, what is my responsibility to me today? And what is at the low end and what is at the high end today? And, setting, we do well when we have soft goals, like not hard goals, because we don't really understand the future. Like the probability factor is crazy. But at the end of the day, what's something that maybe you could wake up with in the morning and would be an easy jump for you by the time you go to bed? And then you've got this other idea before you engage yourself in your showering or whatever you're doing. Like, what would be like the high bar? And just giving the mind something to do rather than tell you it's not going to work. Like we all need a carrot. Like we need something to hold our attention. And that's not weird. That's just how we are. We are designed to evolve. So setting short-term goals, that things that you can knock off really begins to change how the brain works. We don't get afraid of our emotions anymore. Our emotions are our partners. It's just energy and motion. And you start to become more energy efficient. You're not always tired or you're not always super excited. Those are just the opposite. You want to be in the middle of the seesaw, really efficient, straight spine. And know that, if you look at your mind, pain and pleasure, they're simply the opposite ends of the seesaw. And the idea, they push and pull on each other all the time. And if we can stay in the middle of the road, we're much more aware of where we go to one side or the other. We go, aha, I'm going off the road. I don't need to go into the woods. You take a breath and you put yourself back in the middle of the road.
That's so true. And I love what you said about in the morning setting that kind of intention before telling yourself that it's not going to work. It's staying in the middle. It's not moving toward pain before your day even begins. I am so guilty of that. I'm getting better though. I had on my mirror in my room a list of 10,000 things I needed to do. And every day before bed, I would just stare at it and be like, I got nothing done. And then every morning I'd wake up and be like, I'm not going to get anything done today. And I was being so hard on myself because I knew there were all these things I wanted to do, but I made it feel so impossible and overwhelming for myself. And as I've started to learn, I've gotten better that it's a smaller list. It's still not reasonable. But if I can learn to find just that one thing that I'm going to accomplish, I can actually start my day with positivity, with encouragement, with feeling motivated instead of feeling like I'm drowning already.
Successful people set a low bar and they constantly over time grow. Obviously, they have big goals too, but if you don't give yourself small victories, if you don't give yourself the pleasure of going through the experiences that we all need, these baby steps are key. Learning just how to accept the baby step. It's like accepting love. Like who's to say that's not a huge step? Just taking a baby step. The idea is just keep moving. Don't be a stationary target for the dark passenger. Just keep moving. And it doesn't matter what it looks like. Just keep moving. Because once we get still, there's value in that. But are you choosing the stillness? Or is there a mental state that wants you to be stuck? So, stuck is never really good.
Oh, that is so powerful. We have the choice to keep moving, even if it is just those baby steps. Even
Doesn't
if it's,
matter what it looks like.
yes, exactly. Even if it's getting out of bed and making your bed today, that baby step is a victory. Oh,
I try to tell people all the time, when your eyes open in the morning, that's a victory. There's thousands of people on the planet for no reason or fault of their own. Their eyes aren't going to open this morning. So something has come to open your eyes. So can there be just a moment of gratitude before we beat the snot out of ourselves? Because something greater than me has awakened my eyes. There's something breathing us besides just us. So there's a much bigger picture going on in humanity right now than I think science can quantify. But I think we all feel something in our belly that's stirring. And I think it's a good thing.
yeah. Oh, being able to just appreciate that we woke up and see it as an opportunity, a chance, instead of seeing it as, oh, now I have to go to work or, oh, now I have to get up. I am a little bit of a monster in the morning until I have a cup of coffee, and I need to learn to wake up and be grateful that I'm there instead of so overwhelmed by this desperate need for coffee. Maybe I should cut my caffeine a bit. And
Yeah.
no, I know I don't know what I would do without caffeine. It really gets me going, but also I need to make sure I take time to, while my coffee is brewing, to actually be grateful. Because when I recognize, when I do a gratitude practice, I do feel centered in that moment. I feel centered in the present. I feel ready. I feel like I am here. I don't feel overwhelmed by what's to
Mhm.
come.
And that's an acquired skill because the ego is always telling us, get to here and I'll let you be happy, or get to here, get that, and then I'll let you be happy. And what happens is that's all just a lie. You know, all the things that I've invested a ton in myself in my life, and I've gotten what I wanted after months of training or practice or whatever. When I got it, it was gone in 5 seconds. I didn't even care. It was like, okay, it was all about the hunt, just seeing if I could do it. It was great that it got done, but it's funny, like it's just you don't really dwell on it. You know, it's a trap. The idea is to be happy today and just get out there and just get some slow incremental positivity in you. Like just make the bar at a place where you can jump over and start to build some self-esteem, self-confidence, start to trust your emotions, follow your thoughts longer than you normally do before you decide, oh, that's what that means. So it's all about the baby steps. There's nothing to hang on to. All the victories you've had, they've already gone through your hands. It's in your past. And if you want to go back and focus on that, it's great. It's no big deal. There's no harm in that. It feels great. You worked hard. You sacrificed, you disciplined yourself, you did what you wanted. But that really doesn't define you. What defines you is your ability to accept love, accept yourself, accept your role that all of us are learning in baby steps. We're all children, just kind of bouncing in the walls and stuff, doing the best. And sometimes we're the town fool. It's just like you got to be humbled from time to time, but at the end of the day, it's just a way we just need to get to know ourselves better. And that might mean I'm remembering that I have value. I'm remembering that nobody defines me without my permission. And as I do this remembering, and I'm attracted somewhat to the storyline inside, but you're at the same time, you're forgetting the parts of the past that were aggressive or were anger filled or you were separate from your heart. So the process of remembering, on the other side of the coin, you're forgetting what you're not anymore.
So true. It really is about those baby steps in the journey. And if you learn to be happy through them, to find moments of bliss or excitement, it makes getting to that destination, that happiness lasts a little longer. Because when you are so focused on that destination, you hit it. For me, that happiness lasts for about 5 seconds. I
Right.
tell everybody, and then I'm over and ready for the next goal. And it's just, I've been comparing it lately in my mind to going on a hike and
Beautiful.
right? Paying attention to the view the entire time, not focusing just on getting to that main viewpoint, but enjoying the entire way up because it's so beautiful. It's so exciting to get blessed to be able to go for a hike. Being able to not just be so caught up in that destination, but feel that happiness throughout it, that hour, 2 hours feels a lot more worth it.
Just allowing it. Like if baby steps makes you feel insecure and you're very serious about life and I've got to get things done because I'm an adult now, I don't do baby things. That's fine. Okay, I get it. But at the end of the day, every single thing that we learn is a baby step. And you can frame it any way you want to. I'd love to be as happy as babies are. That would make my day. And the part of me that wants to be serious all the time or has an axe to grind or I know better than Joe down the street, dude, it always creates pain.
It does. It really does. And it's so, I think there's this narrative in the world with this hustle culture to always be so serious all the time and to be calculated with every decision, every step. And although that can be great at times, it doesn't always have to be so serious, calculated big steps. It can be that spontaneous in the moment, taking that small baby step in a different direction and seeing where it goes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's a great point because you basically are, for lack of a better term, you're the guinea pig. You are the researcher in the lab who every day is going out gathering intel through your experiences. Now, not only are you the researcher in the lab, you're also peer review. You're also deciding how well things are working. This is good. I'm going to follow it. I'm not going to do that anymore because that hurts. I don't want to do that anymore. So this kind of three-dimensional living, we're all, living this together through different forms of consciousness and awareness.
Yes, we are. And when we recognize, like you said, we're the researcher, we're the guinea pig, we're the peer review, it's up to us. Again, going back to what we've been saying the whole time, it's up to us to define it. It's up to us to decide where we want to go. We have to stop being so connected to those outside voices, to the external, to what's happening online in the media, and focus on being present with ourselves to explore who we are, who our values are, where
Exactly.
we want to go so we can be happy in the moment. And we aren't just chasing what society's standards are today and what's an acceptable goal today that's going to change in a day
Right.
or a week or a month.
Yeah. So there's an old saying that everything outside of us is neutral. We internally assign value to what we see, hear, smell, taste, touch. And that's how we've learned everything we've learned up into this point of our life. But everything outside really is neutral, people, places, and things, until you assign value. And this value comes from how you feel about yourself inside yourself. In other words, you are a conscious human being that's pulling down thoughts all the time and feeling these thoughts. Everything that you've done in your life, everything that you've been was first a thought. You cannot escape thought. You can slow thought down. You can create gaps in between the thoughts if you wish, but you can't stop thinking. It's impossible. So when you think about thinking, this is something that takes place here in like the second floor of your house. And then like below here, this is your house. And this is like the first floor of the house. This is where you have your kitchen. This is where you have your bathroom. This is have your living room. You social with other people. So you got this kind of first floor, then you got the second floor. And then when you close your eyes and you slow your breath, you'll notice there's an attic. And when you can go up into that attic, you can hear and see and feel unbelievable things of support, of growth that you can't hear or see here, or you can't hear or see here. But you've got to get quiet in here to get your awareness up here. And whatever you want to call this, divinity, spirituality, religion, I don't care what, called vanilla ice cream, but this is where it's coming down into your thoughts. And these thoughts are going to create emotions, and you're either going to like it or dislike it, or you're not going to know. So getting up into that attic, you'll feel being you without words, but you'll know exactly what to do.
Yes. Yes. When we can calm our minds, we can calm our bodies, we can gain control of our breath when we're not so focused on these broken records in our mind, we really can figure out, we can see who we are. It's not this constant battle in our brain of who should I be. You're actually able to see who you are and who you want to be and take mindful small steps forward.
Yeah. Let's face it, we a lot of times don't know who we really are.
Yeah.
So how do I begin to figure out who I really am? Well, if you're in pain, that's not really you. That's ego. You've got to find the way to keep going deeper inside yourself. Get deeper than your surface mind and get into your deeper mind. And your mind could be anywhere. It could be in your big foot. It could be in your belly. It could be in between. It could be in your heart or lungs. Wherever you place your attention, that's where you're going to find mind. So, we've kind of wired ourselves in some weird way not to get what we prefer. And then we have to beg, and beg, borrow, and steal, take this wheelbarrow up this 10,000-foot mountain, and hopefully we'll get what we want. It's all ass backwards. So you should get what you want. You have a direct link to what's being manifested. So the idea is to practice this stuff so that you're getting what you would prefer to occur in your life more often than not.
Manifestation is so powerful. That's something I'm learning slowly, how to actually get what I prefer, get what I want, and stop self-sabotaging myself and start listening.
Right. Self-sabotage.
Yeah.
Cannibalize ourselves.
We do. And we don't have to do that. We just get caught up in our thoughts and they completely influence our emotions. And instead of coming from a place of self-love and self-compassion, at least for me, I come from a place of criticalness, of skepticism, of sometimes even self-hatred. I put myself down all the way so then I can justify not feeling, I can justify not getting what I prefer. And instead, I gotta learn to manifest, not self-sabotage. It's going to be the goal.
So how can we use these tools like you just brought up in a healthy way rather than a debilitating way?
Yeah.
So I'm one of the people who believes that everything in my life is happening for my benefit, whether it comes to me in sun or whether it comes to me in a thunderstorm. My job is to take what I'm getting and being really efficient with it. And to the best of my ability, trying to mold it into a shape of something I would prefer to occur in this moment. It's impossible not to be in this world with thought. It's impossible not to manifest in this world. In other words, you're getting exactly what you've asked for. And being accountable for that, never selling yourself short. You're 1,000 times more powerful than you can even imagine. That's how powerful you are. But you can't get that all in one day. It's something incremental that you have to build a little more texture to it. And you got to get comfortable with it. Because, when you start to put more light in your life, it's great. You're lighthearted, light thoughts, think things are going to work out. But you have to understand when you shine a brighter light, you also are exposing some more of the darkness that we might have thought was healed, but it's still kind of lurking around. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Either way, you're going to suffer. But the idea is to notice when you're in pain and make the adjustments before it turns into suffering. The idea is to access more light. That's the goal. However you interpret light, we are light beings in this human body, well beyond anything I could ever describe. But as you begin to kind of get it together, there is, for a lack of a better definition, this lightness to the human being that's softening around the human doing. So this light thing, whether you can see it or not, there's something to this light. And remembering that you are light. It's impossible for you to be anything other than light. But that doesn't mean that there isn't issues in our tissues that need to shift. And how do we shift them? Well, we feel them one breath longer than we did yesterday, today, without an opinion. And just give it room. Let it, it's like untying a knot. And then all of a sudden it's gone.
Learning that, not expecting that those thunderstorms are working against you, not expecting and assuming that the universe is out to get you. And a lot of times I like to think everything out there is out to get me, and learning that it's working in my favor because maybe I didn't go out and do something because there was a thunderstorm. I didn't get to my destination earlier because I was stuck in traffic. There's a reason for that. Mm-hmm. My work took me a little bit longer to get to that place that I deemed good enough for a reason, because I learned so much along the way. If everything just happened like this, I probably wouldn't be able to repeat it if it was taken away at some point. So learning that the obstacles aren't there to work against me, it's there to help me learn and shift when I need to. Then I can begin to, like you said, see that light and recognize how powerful I really am.
That's so well said. Oh. We live in a time where, everybody wants pleasure and pain is bad. And I get it. But one of the things I like to show my clients is that our mind is a lot like nature. And nature's a great teacher. And just in the most simplistic way, the sun doesn't come out every day, but I know that sun's up there. It's hidden by the clouds, but that light is there. I know that's the source. And, if you had sun all the time, wherever you were, plants wouldn't grow. It would become a desert. There'd be no water and you would die. So we need thunderstorms. We need water. We need a cooling down where we can't see the sun anymore and develop faith that I know above these clouds, there's a sun up there that's making all this happen. So looking at nature, partly cloudy, partly sunny, we're the same way here. And if you can look at your mind and the habits and deeds and things that it wants to do, I'm in flow, I'm out of flow, I'm feeling good, I'm feeling bad, the sun's out, it's windy. All of this is a great reflection of the planet. And if nature can do it and nature's in balance, why am I out of balance? Because it's raining? It's all part of this realm.
Yes, it really is. And recognizing, like you said, the bad comes with the good. The hard times comes with the good times, and that's okay. It doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong. And it's so easy to get caught up in this idea that because I'm feeling sad or frustrated or angry or overwhelmed, I'm not doing good enough. They exist because the good emotions exist and the fun emotions exist, and it's okay. It doesn't make you weak. It makes you human. And being able to embrace that and then learn to breathe through it, to get centered in the moment, figure out who you are and what you want really can change everything. Ed, thank you so much for joining me today. Before we wrap up, what is one piece of advice you'd like to leave our listeners with?
Feet on the ground, spine straight. The pace of your mind is going to work off the pace of your breathing. So if the thoughts start to go too fast and there's chaos, simply slow the breathing down so that the ticker tape moves slowly and you can make adjustments on the fly and self-correct. If things get too slow here, breathe fast through your nose several seconds, spike up the cortisol, and then the thoughts will start to move faster, and then you'll get back up to speed. So everything in your mind and your body is working off what's happening in your nose, your sinuses, and the forebrain region. And as you master the breath, notice that your personal growth will come exponentially.
That is incredible advice. I honestly learned so much from you today and have so many epiphanies. So thank you so much for joining me and all of the advice and wisdom that you shared.
It was an honor to be with you. And, when in doubt, sometimes we just have to place our hand on our heart and we just have to feel that drum beating in our chest. And maybe that is just enough to remember who we really are. And this moment will pass, the sun will come back out, and you have immense value.
Thank you so much for listening to Normalize the Conversation. Don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review. This podcast is an initiative of Inspiring My Generation, focusing on normalizing the conversation, bringing education and awareness to the forefront, and amplifying global voices to spark change and hope. Inspiring My Generation is a 501c3 nonprofit organization on a mission towards suicide prevention through awareness, conversation, education, and support. Connect with us on Instagram at Inspiring My Generation and visit our website inspiringmygeneration.org to learn more about our work and how you can make a difference.